Do you hate ads? I hate ads. You know what I love? Patreon.com/inkdependence, where patrons get access to a patron-only Discord, ad-free videos, and the joy of knowing they help support this channel. Hello folks, welcome to Inkdependence. I'm Mike, and today I have a cool pen for you. This is the Pilot Custom 823, which is one of my very favorite pens. I have long said this is one of my very favorites. It's got a great nib. I kind of like everything about this pen. It's another Pilot Custom 823. Oh, it's another Pilot Custom 823. So these are the three flavors. The Pilot Custom 823 comes in currently, which are sort of an amber color, which is a deep brown most of the time. It can be a little hard to see the translucency unless you take the cap off. There it is. And then also a smoke color, which was the first one I got. You can see there's a little bit of translucency there, right there around the rim. The whole thing is translucent like that, aside from the section. And it also only comes in 3 nib sizes, which are fine, medium, and broad. There's a B on that one. So, wait, what's this? Oh, there's a 4th Pilot Custom 823 that's available in the US these days. How about them apples? So this is the transparent, the clear color here, which I believe has actually been available in Japan for quite a while from various stores. But this also has a very fancy thing on it, which is the reason that I actually got this set from Pilot, and that is the signature nib. So I want to take a look at that here. That's kind of the reason I got this whole set. These were very kindly sent to me on loan by Pilot USA. Thank you very much, Jacqueline, for sending these out. That's very, very generous of you. So y'all, you may have used this set of pens. This is the traveling Pilot set. So I actually have to give these back to them at DC. If you're watching this after the DC Pen Show in 2024, then you may have used these pens, and so may have I. So I actually have 2 of these. I have both the amber and the smoke in medium and fine sizes. I don't have a broad one yet, and I don't have the signature. So I'm really glad they sent these out for me to give a try, because they're really good, and we should check them out. So the Pilot Custom 823 is a vacuum fill pen, and actually you can see that best on this pen right here. So you can see on all of these, I sort of have the blind cap, the tail here unscrewed a bit, and that's because you want to have ink able to get to the section. If you look closely here, you'll see there is a little gasket on the end of this pole where there is some ink there, and that when I pull this back, you can see it travels up and down the barrel here. So the way the vac works is you pull this back and you put the nib down in the ink, and then you push this in and it sucks ink back up into the barrel. It's a very good mechanism. Oops, got a little blue on my hand there. It's fine. It's just Pilot blue. It's totally fine. What's an ink review if you don't have a little ink on your hands? So, or a pen review. So that's how this thing basically works. And if you screw this all the way down, you can see this little plunger on the end, this little gasket, is moving when I'm screwing this down. And if you have this all the way screwed down, then it will close off the section from the ink tank here, and you just won't get ink coming into the nib and feed, which is great if you're traveling, if you're going to throw it in a bag or something and it might be jostling around, because this ink is not going to be slamming against the feed and pushing ink out the nib and into the cap and making a mess and all that. If you're flying, you can write with this for at least a little bit. I would caution against holding it like this and then opening the back end on a flight. It might be you might be very blue if you do that. But if you leave it closed, no ink is probably going to come out of here. It's going to be very safe. So that's a really neat feature of these. You just got to remember to reopen the back, or you'll run out of ink in a page or so, depending on the nib size. For the signature and the broad, it might be sooner. For the medium, you have a little bit more time, and for the fine, you actually have quite a lot of time, because the fine is a very fine nib. So these, as I said, are some of my very favorite pens, and that's really due to this nib, this number 15 size nib that Pilot uses on these pens. It's fantastic. It is a great nib. It has a little bit of bounce to it. It's just got a really nice smooth flow. It feels great on the page every time. I just kind of really like this pen a whole lot. Aside from cleaning it, which can be a little bit of a pain. You gotta just use the vacuum system over and over again. Oftentimes I'll just dedicate this pen to a particular ink. In my case, it's just kind of whatever I'm feeling, but I tend to leave it in there for quite a while, because A, it holds a lot of ink, and B, I'd rather just refill it instead of clean it. So that's the only drawback for this pen. All right, so let's talk about these nibs. When you look at the fine nib, you can see here that the fine nib is very fine up there at the tip. It is a real fine nib for sure. When you look at the signature nib next to that, You see it is a heck of a lot bigger. So the signature nib is going to write a lot more boldly, more forcefully, with more verve, I think. The fine nib has been really good. Is this the right one? Yeah, it is. The fine nib has been really good for writing in things like poor paper, or if you're writing in a journal, and you want to put a bunch of stuff on the page, or if you're writing in a planner, because planners oftentimes don't have that much room, which I really prefer to have like a really fine nib when I'm writing in a planner, because I gotta cram a lot of stuff on that page, and if I'm using a signature nib, that ain't gonna work. So the signature nib is bigger than a broad nib. It's essentially the same size, I think, as a double broad from Pilot in the 15, but then it is ground down, and I will show you this here. And I'll also put in the frame a close-up of this sort of a still. But you can see that it has this foot right here. You can see it has that flat spot there, and that's the spot you really want to write on. Now, the signature nib is not going to give you a whole lot of stub-like character. It's still going to be a fairly round nib. You can see the edges there are not very sharp, and that's what gives you a very crisp sort of line if you're using an italic or something. But if you're using the signature nib, it's gonna feel nice to write large, quickly, swoopily, all of those fun things that we like to do when we're writing big signatures and things like that. So when you write with, let me grab something that's kind of stubby over here. This is technically a sig nib, a stub italic gradient from Franklin-Christoph, but it'll give you an idea of what these stub nibs are generally doing. All right, so with a stub nib or an italic, when you have your downstrokes, you'll see they're nice and wide, and then you'll have these cross strokes, which are much thinner. And so that's giving your line this nice character that makes it automatically look a little bit fancier with the thick lines and the thin lines. With the signature nib, you're not really going to get that so much. You'll have a little bit of difference, I think, between the verticals. See how well that just started up even after I've been waving it around for quite a while? I think there is a little bit of a difference between the verticals and the horizontals, but it's not going to be the biggest difference, not like you have with this one here, which is essentially the same size nib. This started out its life as a double broad as well, and you can see the lines are more or less the same. I think this is a very nice wet and broad nib, and it feels really good. It feels really good to just scribble around with. Like, I've never been using this nib and felt like I was hitting an edge or anything that was uncomfortable. In fact, I've got one of these in my shopping cart right now, and I'm about to hit buy because, darn it, I really like this signature nib. I was hoping it wouldn't be great, but it kind of is. So if you're looking for it to be a stub, it's not quite that. If you're looking for it to be a little bit larger than a broad nib, it is that. If you're looking for it to be very comfortable to write with, it's that too. I went ahead and did some pre-writing with all of these nibs just to give you an idea of what they look like when they are next to each other. That is the lines. There we go. So these are the lines you'll get from the Pilot Custom 823 lineup. These are the number 15 size nibs, all the way from fine down to signature. So signature, bigger than broad by a size, but also it's just sort of ground differently, and it's going to feel different on the page a little bit, but it's going to look beautiful when you write with it. You're going to be able to show off the character of that ink. This is a very normal ink. This is Pilot Namiki Blue, which is a really nice ink to write with. It's got a cool tone to it, as you can see here, but also, as you can see when you start looking at those larger ones, it's got a little bit of like shading along the edges and that sort of thing. You're going to show off more of the shading that you get from this ink than you do with the fine nib, which gives you a little bit of shading here and there on this good paper, which is Midori MD. And I used a graph grid here just so that we could, see the relative size of these letters and the squiggles and such. So yeah, this I've got no complaints about this actually, and I've already got it in my cart. It's ready to go. I just gotta pull the trigger on this one and get it in my hands so I can just keep using 823s because they're amazing. Now the only thing to keep in mind with these is that the 823 pen is going to sell for $336. That is the sort of store price, the street price for these pens. But the good thing is that is true from fine all the way up to signature. So if you like fine nibs, this is going to be great. If you like the signature nib, you're not going to have to pay extra, which I'm actually very surprised. You're also surprised? I knows. He's also surprised about that. But you won't have to pay extra for the signature nib, which is really cool because this is obviously ground. So if you take a look at, let me grab the broad here, just so you can, let's see if I can get the camera to focus on me and not my gorgeous little cat here. All right, now that I have covered up Mr. Nose, my camera won't be as confused. You can see, he really wants to get in the frame here. You can see the broad nib there on the bottom is kind of a round blob of tipping, while the signature nib on the top there has that signature foot. You see that foot on the right-hand side nib there. That's the signature versus the broad, so you're getting a lot more foot there. It's making it broader, it's making it smoother, a little bit wider. You gotta love that. All right, so there you go. That's the signature nib, and I think it is pretty great. It is a beautiful writing nib, feels awesome in the hand, and it looks cool, and it doesn't cost more, which is, you know, kind of a surprise. What did I get on my hand? What did I pick up? Oh, I smudged it with this thing I was writing on before. Oh, good job, Mike. So yeah, this is a great nib, and I really like this darn thing. I think it's pretty great. So go and check out the signature nib. In fact, go and check out all of the Pilot Custom 823s over at your favorite Pilot dealer. These should be widely available in the US now. These clear ones and also the signature nib. They're outstanding. So thank you very much, Pilot, for letting me check these out. Thank you, Nose, for giving me your approval here. And thanks y'all for watching. Without you, they wouldn't be sending me cool stuff like this. So tell your favorite dealer, or say hi to Pilot and tell him you saw it here. And I'll see you in another video soon. Until then. Want to say goodbye? Peace out. You can see on the bottom there. I know, so I'm looking at the nib right now. You can see at the bottom there, we have sort of a round blob of tipping. Come on now. There we go. Maybe. There we go. Mr. Nose is really doing the job here. You can see the broad nib there is a round blob of tipping, whereas, okay. I need this.